Our preliminary design featured a grassed area through here in an ellipse type shape. You can run and place an ellipse through draw, ellipse, a couple of options. You can mark a center point and then stretch everything out from there, or pick an axis and then end point. I chose the first option and just did it by eye. We're just interested in a grassy area of that approximate shape. Once you've got it in, it's very easy to manipulate. We can turn the angle around. We can select it again and change the width out like so. And we can trim and work with it. So I'm drawing on a layer I've called L grass, and in color red, just to help you see what we're doing. And we used the trim command before, modify and trim. We're asked to select the cutting edge. We can pick that one there. We want to retain this area and that little area. So we pick another cutting edge, then right click and select the objects to trim off. So if we pick it here, that bit's gone, and pick it there, that bit's gone. So there's our grassed area established very quickly indeed. Well, remembering that both parts of the ellipse are on a layer called L grass, and we've made L grass the current layer, and I've set the color of L grass layer to color 64, we can now add some more interest. We can draw and hatch, and we can make sure we've loaded the appropriate hatch pattern. This is the gCADPlus ISO pattern file, and I've scrolled down and picked grass or grassed area, and I've set a scale of 100, and then I've taken advantage of, I'd like to take advantage of gCADPlus's rather clever pick point option. So let's select it. The prompt now says pick an internal point. So if I go click, it gives me an internal point in that zone. I don't quite know why we haven't gone out into this area, but we'll see. I can pick it, and I've added that little extra bit. I don't think that will matter, but let's continue on. My guess would be that the trim area is not quite meeting. Everything's set now, I think. I think we can say okay. And it works well enough, but a scale of 100 is too big, so let's just try 20, and that looks reasonable. So what gCADPlus does is radiate out from the point you picked, and it makes its own boundary. So if I pick one of those now, and that one there, I think I can happily remove them. Whoops, no I can't. I obviously picked, I want just that one. I want to leave the hatch behind, and then I want this one, and I've left the hatch behind, and those temporary boundaries which are set by a closed polyline have been removed. Let's just hatch this little area here and hatch, pick a point in there and enter, and we set a value of 20, and that's worked nicely. We can, I think, select this one and remove without removing the hatching. So that's fine. In very little time, we put the elliptical lawn area in and hatched it to indicate the lawn. Well, our sketch design suggests that there are a couple of existing trees in this corner here, and we should remove those now. And I think we'll put some fence line symbols in here to indicate the fence. So let's return now to the design proper. Or we want to indicate a couple of trees in this zone that need to be removed. We can take advantage of the library and plants and standard, and up pops the list. So we've got already some symbols for existing trees and shrubs, and we'll take these two, I think. So let's put that one in and insert it into the drawing, and it'll be much too big for what we want. And we right-click, select it, right-click and scale, and that is large enough to indicate it. And we'll try again, library, plants, standard, and existing number 4, and we'll insert that in the drawing. And I imagine that will be too big also, but it wasn't. So we are now at the stage, I think, that we want to put some design notes in. Clearly we need to put some notes, text notes, to indicate that these two trees are existing, but they are to be removed. We want to have an information on the character and diameter of the wall there. We want to start putting indicator of plant species that are new ones going in, and we now we're going to make a custom gate and sort of arbor through here, but we'd like to indicate that these two sections are going to be a fence line. So we can select them and come over here to the properties box. We're on a layer called hardscape, and that's fine, but what we want is some sort of fence line. And we've got fence line 1 and fence line 2. This gets a little bit fiddly. I'll start with a fence line type scale of 10 and just see how we go. And you can see that there are some circular symbols going in there, but to my mind they're a little bit too close. I'd want the scale. Let me select that one and that one again. I'd like the scale a little larger, and that scale is 10. I'd like to see what 50 looks like, and that I think will stand out much better. But again, we're going to need some text labels through here, and with a little bit of detail on the gate and arbor that we'll design. That'll be a custom one. We don't yet have any information on the surface of the walkway through to the front veranda and front entrance, and this area needs to be explained as well. So it's starting to take shape reasonably well. We have a few dimensions in, but we will need to add some others certainly in this area. But certainly progress is being made. We might go to layout again, and here's what you would see if you printed this design out at the moment. And layout 1, I have quite forgotten, is on an A1 sheet. So we can plot quite a large drawing if we want, or develop another layout that is on, say, an A3 sheet, because this would work just as a guide to everyone involved in this project. Well, I think what is required at this stage is to build some skills in applying notes, and we want to be able to label things quickly and easily. The most efficient way in our view to label this will be a custom entrance and the wooden fence along here. But let's imagine we've been talking to the client who wants to design and build the front fence. He's a very keen woodworker, and he's happy to provide some paving underneath here, but we want a really good set of notes now. To do that, and remembering I've said that we use the leader command, and the reason for that is the leader command is complex. We can move the arrowhead around, we can adjust a whole series of features of that text. I've managed to just dive in here and put, say, extra lines in. We can say designed and delete that one, and then backspace here, designed by a client. So we can easily adjust that text. It's put in with a M-line or multi-line command. But if we look over here, we can set a style for the leader. We can justify it as, say, left justified. And if we unselect, can see that looks a lot neater. We can, if we pick it again, we've got control over the landing distance and the line space factor. Using a leader to add your notes opens up a whole lot of flexibility in your design work. And you can even copy these quite easily. So you could just pick that one up and copy it from this point here to, say, here, and finish up. Delete that one, move this one out of the way, like so. And then you could just click in here and change that text to put caps lock on is easier. Remove 2 trees. So it's very easy to deal with that. The leader command uses dimensions and dimension style. So if I come in here, we're using a style called standard. Our text style is Century Gothic. Its height is 200 and the offset for the line is 35. Can you see we went across here to format and text styles. We created one called Century Gothic, and we're now using that in a standard dimension style, and so we're able to apply those labels quickly and easily. I think we wanted to say along here, screening needed, and so on, and we want to put labels and information about that low stone wall. So I hope that's helping you progress towards the finished drawing. If we just swing into layout again, we always want to check how that text is looking, and I'm quite happy with it. Let's imagine that the client wants to design a custom harbour, include a gate and install some pavers under it to provide an entrance to the site. And he is keen to do that, so the client's always right. Let's indicate the paving underneath the arbor, and we would do that with draw. We've already looked at the hatch command, so I've selected a net pattern and I've set a scale of 50, and we can pick an entity now. I've included that as a rectangle, and we just hit enter and OK, and in goes our custom arbor, including the gate and pavers by client. You might say that looks a little tight and we'd like the paver indication to be a little bigger, so let's go for 75, and they spread out. It's not, that is simply a hatch. These are not indicative of the cuts and the number of pavers that are going to fit in this area, and we might well take some of these structures here and colour them, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself, and I think well and truly got enough to go on with.